Hello, everybody, and welcome to another battle report. Boy, it's been a long time on these, and I'm sorry, but I'm still finishing these up. Yes, that's right. There are still more games of this World Tour from now, let's say 2 months ago. But, I have no good excuse. This is actually a twofer. You got two games here because the first one has three pictures. And I'm sorry about that. I just got so into the game and we were having such a good time that I didn't take enough pictures of the game. And it makes me sad because it was hilarious. So I will do my best to explain it and just go through it quickly. And then we'll get into the second game, which has more pictures, and which is one of the worst pilotings of a Bretonnian army you will ever see. So if you're looking for what not to do with Bretonnian 8th edition, basically just watch this, and, that'll sort of clue you in. Just don't do everything I do, and you're good to go. So, the first game, right here, as you can see, what we've got is a nice big showdown of my Tomb Kings against some Dwarves. The opponent said he was playing Dwarves. I said, great, I'll grab my TK. That's a terrible match. Or he chose TK, I'm sorry. Which is as all my opponents did. They chose the army. They chose the army, and I chose the specific list. And I said, you know what? I haven't played that 5 Sphinx list yet again. Let's get that bad boy out. So I didn't know what kind of dwarves he was playing, but he set it down. And it turns out he was playing a almost all big block of infantry list. Now, there are some war machines, but let's go through it real quick. Top left, he's got a gyrocopter. He has a organ gun. And he's got a bunch of hammerers. A bunch of warriors with great weapons. Both of those are hordes or huge bricks or something. I don't know. There's a bunch of those dudes. Then he's got some iron drakes. He's got one cannon, another organ gun, and a stone thrower. Okay. On my side, I've got 3 chariots, got a skullpult, got some archers along with a lich priest. We've got 3 regular sphinxes. We got a tomb prince on a sphinx, and then a tomb king on the sphinx, being played today by Archon the Black, since I had left my other sphinx at home. You can't see them, but over on the right, there are also 3 more chariots and then some horse archers up that have scouted way ahead toward those war machines, because obviously those war machines are scary. So let's talk about strategy for a moment. When I looked at this, I am not scared of anything in this list save the cannon and the rock lava, or stone thrower, whatever it is. The cannon will blow up my kitty cats right quick. So that's got to go. Also, obviously, I'm sorry, the Casket of Souls is back there too. The organ guns, I'm really not afraid of. Those organ guns, they could do some wounds to my cats, but really they're just going to bounce off. The stone thrower, if it lands a direct hit, will do damage, and that's not good. So the organ guns will make a mess out of my small chariots, and I really would prefer to have them for flank charges with a kitty cat to help just grind out a bunch of these dwarves, because the infantry blocks are large and they are going to take a long time to kill through. Now, funny story, his entire army, well, that is to say the 2 giant bricks of infantry, are armed with great weapons, which normally means they'll just chop up anything they hit. The funny part here is that he still wounds on 6s. So, yeah, great weapons or not, doesn't really matter. Hence the power of the Tomb Kings. This is the game I only have 3 pictures of. As I said, I apologize. I'll try to explain what happened. At the top of one, I win the turn to go first. And at the top of one, I went ahead and did what, any good cheaty Tomb player should do, Tomb Kings player should do, and I 6-diced the casket at his cannon. I blew that up. It jumped to the organ gun. I blew that up. It jumped to the rock lava or the stone thrower, and I failed to do anything. But with the cannon and one of the organ guns gone on that side, that was a solid first turn. So I was very happy with that. Number 1 threat diminished right away. I then basically just started marching my cats up pretty hard. I wasn't too afraid of them, honestly, because there was a slight concern if he gets the charge, but I've got a heck of a lot of movement on him, and I put myself in a position where he had very long charges, I had very reasonable charges. I didn't really need chaff, and he didn't have any chaff other than his gyrocopter, which is placed way out on the side, and it's not going to be chaffing at me up, and it's hard to chaff a kitty cat anyways. So I wasn't too concerned with that. The skeleton horse archers are eventually going to come up and shoot at and then charge the stone thrower and take that thing out. So that was very nice. And I basically just bring my forces up. So let's take here. There's another little picture of me on the line. I don't know if I move forward. That Tomb Scorpion isn't really there. He's in reserve, and he's just out there on the board to remind me that he exists. So this is a picture very late in the game, and let me see if I can explain what's happened here. My chariots ended up getting a hold of the gyrocopter and killing it, so that was fun. My archers and my Lich Priest move up to keep all of the all the kitty cats within 24-inch bubble. And I have the spell for, I have the Righteous Incantation of Smiting. Now, that's an augment, and it can bubble up 24 inches, so every time it's happening, it's healing my constructs for a wound. The red kitty cat, the one who stomped so much stuff back in the Skaven game, gets into those dwarves, those dwarven warriors, and if you can see how many dwarven warriors are dead in this picture, the back sort of yellow base, all of those are killed by the kitty cat. And it's so far, I mean, sure, he's taken more than 3 wounds, but he keeps getting healed. He does maybe an average of 1 wound a turn, and I usually heal him for 1 wound a turn. Because I will 6 dice that incantation in a heartbeat, and I don't really care if I blow up a bunch of dumb skeletons. Meaning that they're all getting healed. The hammerers, you'll notice, are also vastly depleted. That was from a bevy of fire breaths that got laid down. They did manage to bring 1 kitty cat down, my white kitty cat, but not without significant losses. What happens after this is the red kitty cat stomps that unit into the ground. It finishes it off and lives. It kills every dwarven warrior. They never break. He just simply stomps every single dwarven warrior into the mud. He was thunder crushing and hitting the whole time, just dropping out massive amounts of damage on that unit. That plus the Righteous Incantation meant that, the guys on top were all taking 2 attacks. So it was quite good. The hammers then just got turned and at the end of the game just got triple charged. What you're looking at here is actually the end of his turn after he had overrun, or not overrun, I'm sorry, after he had killed my white kitty. And my 3 kitty cats just move around him to where he can't charge me, and I line up the charge of the chariots in the rear, the kitties in both flanks, and that is the end of those hammers. Toot sweet. The Iron Drakes, I never do actually get a hold of. My Tomb Prince spends a lot of the game trying to charge them, but they have like triple rune of slowness or something insane. So eventually he just kind of moves up and whatever. He never dies, he never kills them. But I got all the war machines and all the big bricks, and the only thing he had left was the Iron Drakes, and I lost 1 kitty cat. So I will call that a victory. Another ultimate win for the 5 Sphinx list, proving that the answer is always more cats. So that's that game. Nice and quick. All right. Final game with Lord Tremendous was my Bretonnians against his Undead. So this is the same force as earlier, with the exception that he has put a second kitty cat into the list. He's borrowed my red kitty cat, which I should have never let him borrow the red one. Oh my god, after what that thing has done to enemies, why would I ever give that thing up? I should have known better. But, so I hand this off, and let's talk about play here. So, Bretonnians. So first off, this is a terrible matchup. He has a giant brick of infantry I'm never going to break on the charge, so that's pointless. I should have seized that up and said, okay, never attack that thing. The kitty cats, I don't really have anybody who can kill, exempting my heroic killing Blowlord, which he's not lined up on either of them, so fantastic placement there. The Peg Knights are more or less worthless because there's nothing they can get into, and they're too big in this case to actually act as chaff, because that's a 1 full 6-man unit. And it's just a bad matchup. But I'm going to go ahead and play it terribly anyways. This was the 4th game in a single day. I slept about 4 hours the night before, and I think I could probably come up with maybe 5 more excuses. But really, I just played this terribly. Lord T played it very well, and I'll tell you right now, little spoiler alert, this is not going to end well for the Bretonnians. So, we're lined up here. You can see he's got his Coven Throne with his baby vamp on top. He's got 1 war kitty, big giant block of skeletons with a bunch of characters in it. One of which, though I don't know it, has the Sword of Anti-Heroes, so that's going to be really terrible later. He's got a corpse cart. He has a spirit host, 5 little doggies, and another kitty cat, and some horse archers. And then way over on the side, he's got more horse archers. Me, myself, I've got my 6 peg knights, the missile unit of knights errant, some archers, my lord's lance with the paladin and another with the paladin BSB and another paladin up front. Basically, that whole front wall is either 1-up or 1-up rerollable. We got a trebuchet. Oh, there you go. There's them staring it down. Oh, and you can see his casket of souls over on the left. There's the angle from my lord's vision. Just looking at a massive army I'm never going to be able to kill. Over here on the far right, I've got a Grail Lance, which is just so far out of position. I don't know what I was thinking with this. Flanking maneuver, maybe? These rocks are terribly in the way, and I am just placed awfully for trying to maneuver through them. I mean, obviously, I'm not afraid of the horse archers. Those things are a joke. And they would never pose, they do not pose any threat to this army, and yet I'm positioning against them as though I'm worried in some way. Who cares if they scout in? I should have just blocked off the trebuchets, and so that they couldn't immediately run to them, and had my knights, because maybe if I triple charge that skeleton unit, I could break it, or, you know, put a full healthy lance into one of those kitties, I could break it on the charge, but just from crumbling it from, 3 ranks, banner charge, etc., but nope, none of that's going to happen. All right. Yeah, you can see I do have 2 trebuchets, which are really going to need to put in work against the cats. Another spoiler, they're not going to do anything in this game. So many pre-game. So this is his turn. You can see he brought his direwolves up, spirit host, just kind of moving some chaff. He repositions. You can see he brings the Coven Throne way over there to the left. You can't really see it, but it went way over there. His big brick doesn't really move much because he doesn't need to. He's just kind of tossing out some bait from my lances. And this is pretty standard tactics against the Bretonnian, to throw out some bait. The right answer is to not take that bait, because you don't need to. Shoot them down. He's got no ranged threats whatsoever. Other than the casket, there is nothing compelling me to move forward. And the reality is, I have enough decent magic that, because I've got Amber Spear this game, and I've got 2 trebuchets, and I've got, a small little group of archers that I could start plinking away dire wolves or whatever. But I don't do any of that. Instead, I do this. Ta-da! Charges! Oh boy, how did we get like this? This a lot happened, right? Okay, so the Grail Knights did the smart thing and just moved up into a position where they didn't charge the horse archers. Just let that happen, whatever. The lance, the Lord's Lance, charges the dogs like a dum-dum, and then, of course, kills 5 dumb dogs, and then just reforms, because on the overrun I'm not going to go anywhere. Which, of course, presents his giant, massive skeleton block with a decent charge. Now, there was still some decent distance to it, maybe like a 9, but of course he nails that. Gets right on in there. The kitty cat had charged my peg knights. I brought them up into a position, couldn't really say. I don't know what they were doing there, but this is them fleeing away, by the way. And he ends up double fleeing them away to push them. Like, I believe I had fleed in response to a charge, and then he pushed me off again, so that way I can't do my quick reform thingy. And you see my Errant Lance is just sitting here doing jack all. Now, I could shove that Errant Lance forward into the side of the skeletons, or well, I guess in their front, rather, because it is a front charge. And they could probably make that charge. I'm just not sure it would help. It's probably just throwing good money after bad. So at this point, we're already deeply screwed. And by the way, even if I did that, he could then bring the kitty cat in. Yeah, that's what that looks like after the Sword of Anti-Heroes goes off. You can see that a lot of dead people, a lot of dead knights, as that unit is nothing but characters up front, and that makes his Tomb King strength a bajillion and slices right through my armor. I did end up heroic killing blowing him. Unfortunately, we were Simo. I don't know. Whatever happened, we both died. How about that? We both chop each other down, and you'll notice over on the right, I'd like to draw your attention to the fact that my Grail Lance has now gotten pinned in the front corner flank by that red kitty cat because of how I placed them. Dumb, dumb, dumb. That is the worst case scenario. I have I have a little bit of combat res against that, but I've given him a flank. So already he's chewing away some of my combat res. He's going to sit there and stomp on me. The guys on top have killing blow. It's just bad. Bad, bad, bad. Other kitty cats moved into position. My peg knights have turned around to do nothing. I don't know what they're going to do. There's the Coven Throne. You'll notice that I'm down to 1 peg knight. I believe it came in and charged them somehow. Whatever happened here, the errant lance got blown up by something, and then ended up overrunning like into the peg knights or something. Between the kitty cat and the Coven Throne, they handily deal with my lance of knights errant. I blew like a really high leadership check that was rerollable because they were near the Lord. I believe I blew a leadership 9 rerollable, and they just ran away and ran off the board because that's the way this game would go. I got 1 peg knight left, so hey, there's something. And with his Sword of Anti-Heroes Lord dead, those guys fell to weapon skill, 2 or something, and now it's just the eternal grind. I'm never going to kill that unit. They probably won't kill me, and we'll just sit there for the rest of the game doing nothing. Grail Knights, who could maybe help something, are still just stuck in with a kitty cat. Can't reform because of, or they could slide up, but then all I'm doing is, there's very little advantage to that, putting a second knight in combat. As it stands right now, he's, I put there's nobody in that unit that was special to sort of wall it off. So I can reform up a little to get a second knight in, but really there's not much more I can do. So here we've got the final slide of the game, and yeah, this is pretty great. So you can see my Grail Knights did eventually turn to face after his guys on top went on a killing blow rampage and murder 3 knights. I'm still just stuck in with the skeletons. I usually manage to win combat, but I crumble like 1. He can still heal him back, so that's just never going to end. And he still got all his points on the table. And at that point, I basically call it. It was midnight. I still had more hours to drive that night, and at this point, I was thoroughly exhausted. The Bretonnians had been beaten from the field in a most egregious fashion. So, sad one for the Brets here. Terribly played on my part. I think that there's still important stuff to learn here. Like, obviously, when you've got your lances, and you're up against something like this, it's all the more important to really be thinking about your fights and what you want to get these units into. I did not leverage my lances correctly. I did not position my lances correctly to be into the right targets. And, if I had focused both the trebuchets on working down that skeleton block, held in position, and then, because those trebuchets will really mess up those skeletons. And even if they drift, they will mess up those skeletons. And then put 2 big lances into it, I could have blown the whole thing up and beat down all of his lord and everything else just on combat res. But I didn't do any of that. I instead basically just floundered around like a fish, just kind of flapping on the shore, just hoping for air or water and finding none. But it was an amazingly fun game. It was awesome to play Lord T, to hang out with his group. All of his group is a bunch of really cool guys. And as I said in all the previous videos, if you're ever down there in the Shreveport area, you should absolutely go to his game store and look him up, him and all of his crew, and ask to get a game on of whatever game they happen to be playing that day. It will be amazing fun. They are all great people, and I had a truly great time and wanted to thank him again for having me down there. So, with that, we will call our time in Lord T to an end, and with these, there is only 1 battle report remaining, which hopefully I'll have out, I don't know, sometime before the end of the year. But thank you all for listening. I hope it was fun, if not that informative on how to play this army. But as always, we'll see you next time.